Another episode, another year, and a brief explainer if you're new to the series, because I really don't do this recap bit often enough. A video every week this year marking my 52 years on planet Earth, highlighting a significant album from every year of my life. Not necessarily the best or the critics' favourite, but the one that meant most to me at that point in time. 2002, a palindromic year, the first of the new millennium, and rather fittingly, a complete turnaround in personal terms from 2001. Which I shouldn't need to remind you, sucked. I was working again, so money coming in at last, and my girlfriend and I were slowly working things out. And I say slowly, but by the end of the year, we were back together under one roof and engaged to be married. More on that next year. Musical shenanigans? Well, for starters, only one of the greatest weekends of my life to that point. Yes, all tomorrow's parties, April the 19th, to the 21st at Camber Sands Holiday Centre in East Sussex, curated by Shellac of North America. A band outing, all three of us went with our partners, enjoying a once-in-a-lifetime bill and a lot of drinking. Too many band names to reel off here. The full lineup is over there, but any festival that opens with a Shellac set on all 3 days is getting things very, very right from the get-go. Highlights for me, our curators, of course, Shipping News, Rachel's, Ox's, The New Year, Low, Arc Welder, and unforgettable sets from Wire, and my pick of the weekend, Mission of Burma. Burma were an utter revelation, easily one of the best live performances I've ever witnessed firsthand. An absolute privilege to attend. Also, a little later on in May, in fact, at my Oil Red O gig of the year. We'd played London a few times by this point, I think, at the Bull and Gate, Dublin Castle, somewhere else maybe. But this was a hometown gig, well, a party, actually, to celebrate my 30th birthday. Saturday the 25th, upstairs at Café Dar. Oil Red O opened this evening so I could relax for the rest of the night. And our good friends, Senan, these were actual neighbours of mine. They literally lived on the same street. They headlined. Tunes being spun thereafter. Friends, drinking, music, what's not to like? There are photos, but it's the vibe that sticks. A fun evening, which went so well that we ended up promoting a few shows at the same venue over the course of the next year. On with the records then, and I was deep in the weeds by this point, meaning a lot of albums registered with me, but I never fully committed. Heard and Not Loved would probably cover it, and there are going to be quite a lot of these going forward. Songs for the Deaf, Sigur Ros's Untitled Brackets album, Beck's Sea Change, they would be on kind of the nearly end of this kind of category. But Interpol, Wilco, Coldplay, I remain ambivalent about them to this day. So only 2 genuine other contenders this episode. Expect more of this. The first one being Do, Make, Say, Think, and their third album, And Yet. And I make no bones about being very picky with my post-rock circa the turn of the millennium. The formulae were beginning to solidify, and I wasn't entirely convinced by its across-the-board acceptance. So enter Do, Make, Say, Think, and on this album in particular, I really like the nook that they settled into. Not as overwhelmingly big as Godspeed, less borderline jazz than Tortoise. Plenty of interesting guitar lines and ideas on show, and a really nice use of brass and horns. A lot less of the obvious crescendo style dynamics on this album. The track End of Music being the only one I think that would possibly fall under that blanket. Great skittery drums, beautifully paced with simple melodies, stretched out and supportive to all the shifts and sweeps and mood building. A surprisingly chilled record. The 1-2 salvo of Right Shula and Soul and onward towards the album's close is as good a summation of everything great and good about post-rock at this time as you will ever find. It's a lovely album, great sequencing, zero bloat. They always get a little less attention than some of the other Constellation acts, but I think this one has held up as well or better than many of their peers' more fated records. Second record then, and another artist more accustomed to playing second fiddle, but more in the band than the label sense. Yeah, this is the other guy from Sebadoh. It's Jason Lowenstein and At Sixes and Sevens. Wickedly propulsive, hook-laden indie rock. Lou Barlow grabbed all the headlines in the dough, but I always had a soft spot for Jason's numbers. Bubble and Scrapes, Happily Divided, and Sister. Bake Sales, Not Too Amused. Great songs, in no way overshadowed by Barlow's bossing of the track count. And at 6s and 7s shows Jason getting a full 40 minutes to show what he can do. And he does it all, by the way. Everything is played by Jason here. And what he most definitely can do is write a tune. Great, crispy riffing, arch nods to classic rock and metal. Just catchy, catchy, catchy. There's opener codes, all filthy, garagey, lo-fi chugging and stoogey leads. Circles pulling back on the throttle with its troubled, bending main riff, emptying out into a classic, clattery Sebadoh chorus. And Roswell to Jerusalem slowing to a slinky swagger with some lovely, twisty, interlocking jangle for company. There are lighter, tossed-off moments like Crazy Santana and HM, but these are capably counterbalanced by deeper, more confessional numbers like the lacerating I'm a Shit, or Mistake, all slowly uncoiling hurt and regret. Pitchfork hated this back in the day, a typically fearful skewering by a publication cowed by scene anxiety and genre policing. Yet all the signs were there even then. Screw that, At 6s and 7s is a great album. For what it's worth, I revisit it much more than I do Pitchfork nowadays. So onto my pick for this year, and I finally caught up with these fellas for this, their second album. A case of your first experience becoming your de facto favourite? Maybe. But either way, this one knocked me and the rest of the band too sideways in '02, and it still tips the scales for me. And in keeping with 2002 being a better year than 2001, this is a case of Fangs Can Only Get Better. I'm sorry. This is Suicide Invoice by Hot Snakes. And maybe this is why the Strokes, the Hives, the White Stripes never quite tickled my fancy. The garage rock revival seemed to focus on the heavy rock or the obviously bluesier side of the equation, whereas Hot Snakes skew deliciously garage punk in every conceivable way. Faster, nastier, wallowing in EC-style schlock and gallows humour, pummeling, relentless. They effortlessly summon forth a specific blend of US punk and hardcore. The rock and roll grind of Crime, the surfy, trashy edge of Dead Kennedys, the tightly wound riffing of the Wipers. And they throw in just enough blues and classic rock seasoning, a little AC/DC, a pinch of Groundhogs, a teaspoon of Link Wray, Dick Dale, to sweeten the sauce. And the result? Short, sharp, trashy punk numbers with a rabidly focused technicality. Pinpoint riffing and guitar interplay bearing only a second cousin likeness to the band's familial forebears. The mathy, hardcore explorations of Drive Like Jehu, and the good time punk soul review of Rocket from the Crypt. That John Rice and Rick Froberg, Jason Koukounis on drums, Gar Wood on bass, could generate such an obvious distinction with just a tweak of the creative dials is one of music's great mysteries to me. I know people who prefer Jehu or Rocket, and others who love everything they ever touched. But to impart such a spin on the feel and sensitivities of their individual projects when working with extensively the same guitars, bass, drums recipe is quite the trick. Anyway, Suicide Invoice, a hair under 33 minutes, 12 tracks, a pulpy page-turner, kinetic comic book panels, lurid CMYK vignettes, violence, sickness, danger, death, spectacle. Opener, I Hate the Kids, kicks off mid-pace, all gurgly, dissonant abrasion and doomy clangs. But the trio following that, the giddy body slamming Gar Forgets His Insulin, the grindhouse freakout of XOX, You Were Sick in the Mezzanine, Upset by What You've Seen, and the death-struck denial of Who Died are pedal to the floor perfection. Breathless, garagey shockers, fast, pitiless, hammering, funny. Like a midnight movie triple bill. Minimal exposition, all blackly humorous payoffs and gratuitous gore. Punk rock personified. But make no mistake, this isn't some kind of playing it dumb Ramones tribute. The lyrics are whip smart, lean, perfectly timed, hard-boiled conceits. Only on the title track does the pace let up, but not so the intensity. A viciously pounding beat, Reese's dancing riff rising and falling, Froberg laying out the psychological weight of a failed suicide pact on the surviving partner. Yeah, it's agonized, tormented, guilt-ridden, an amazing centerpiece to the album, and Rick's vocal is killer. And they maintain the highs all the way down the home straight. There's the stammering Morse code riffing of LAX, the roiling, begrudging unrest of Paperwork, replete with surfy solo break. There's the Tales from the Crypt Creepshow style punning to cap off Why Does It Hurt? Your heart is in the right place, but your head is in your lap. Yikes. And closing is the twisted fantasy of Ben Gurion, a pile-driving mass of consecutive riffs, hiding the blackly comic story of Gurion resurrected and raising a new tower in Lower Manhattan on the former World Trade Center site. And ending in gloriously epic bad taste. Yeah, but that's kind of the point. So Hot Snakes, we only had them for a while. All the records rule. Take your pick. There are only winners here. But me, I'll take this one. My first? Their best? Who cares? They wouldn't. 2002, Suicide Invoice. Someone mentioned in the comments a few episodes back, Automatic Midnight, and I had to kind of like cover up for the fact that I hadn't heard that one at the time. This was my first Hot Snakes, and yeah, it's my favourite. So I've shown you mine, you show me yours. What's your favourite record of 2002? Let's talk about it down below the line. And as ever, thanks for sticking with me for the ride. If you've watched this far, please think about giving the video a like. It really does help me. And yeah, why not subscribe if you haven't done so already? And in typical style, I'll bid you a farewell there. Please take care, and I hope to see you back on the channel very, very soon. Bye for now.